everyone. It has been a while since I've uploaded, but I don't know why I always do this. What is this with my arms? I don't know what to do with my limbs when I'm filming. I have my August wrap up. I've read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6 books done in August. I'm very happy with that. I had some really good reads too. So yeah, let's just get into it. I started out the month of August with Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I am a big fan of high fantasy in general. I love the fantasy world and orcs and elves and, you know, all those things, Lord of the Rings and all of that. For as much as I love those worlds, I don't consume a lot of media necessarily related to them, and I don't know why. Like, I don't read high fantasy, but I love like the movies and I love the lore that goes into them, but I don't necessarily read them. Like, I love Lord of the Rings, I've never read them. So I'm not sure. It's like sci-fi. I love consuming sci-fi media, but it intimidates me as far as reading it. I don't know. So anyway, I've decided to pick up Legends and Lattes because it's set in like high fantasy, but it's easy to consume, cozy. I gave this 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed this. I was not sure what to expect. An orc opening a coffee shop. I wasn't sure how the orc character was going to be portrayed, but I really enjoyed it. The background of this character is that she basically was a mercenary. She was, you know, muscle for hire. She ran with a crew, and they would take on quests. Your typical fantasy stuff. She finds out about coffee at some point, falls in love with it, and decides when she gets out of the mercenary business, she's going to open a coffee shop. And instead of the portrayal of some fantasy series where orcs are low intelligence, brute strength, you know, just need somebody to explain how the world works, she's not like that. She's just your average intelligence. She just happens to be an orc, so she's incredibly strong. And I really, really liked it. The story was really cute. I mean, opening a coffee shop, and the way that this book describes coffee, if you like coffee, I think you're just going to enjoy this. There's a giant cat that just shows up, which I just love. You know, and she just meets, it's kind of like a found family. She meets people along the way, and she just realizes she has to put her trust in the people around her to help her. And I quite enjoyed it. So I gave it 4 stars. I didn't like the narrator. And then I found out like maybe halfway through that the author was actually reading it himself. And I was like, it kind of surprised me, because as the person was reading it, I'm like, I don't think this person is very familiar with the story. No, it's the guy who wrote it. He knows what he's talking about. I just didn't like him as a narrator. I didn't hate him. I would have selected a different narrator. So I don't know what that means, but it was still good. Like, it was still good, but I have heard other people, especially like, I think Emmy was saying, Emma at Emmy Reads was saying, she tried to get into it, but she just didn't really like the audiobook, so she's going to try to read it physically. And that makes sense to me. But I still listened to the entire thing on audiobook because I can't be bothered to rub 2 brain cells together to try to compile words from a page and then put it up into my head. So anyway, Legends and Lattes, 4 stars. The next book I read, A Canticle for Leibowitz. This apparently is the first in a series, which I didn't realize. I gave it 3 stars. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, here's the thing. I don't know what this is about. I really struggled with this because I was listening to it while I was distracted, and this is not the kind of book you can really listen to and be distracted. This is like in the future, a few hundred years, there was some horrific apocalypse. There's remnants of humanity. They're kind of sort of set back into almost like the Middle Ages as far as like technology and stuff. And so science has basically become the new religion. So they kind of take like the history and the essence of like Christianity, and they're pulling it through time, and saints are now scientists of the past. And a scientist that they want to attain to sainthood is this scientist Leibowitz, and he like created a energy conductor or something. I don't even know. So there's like this sect that follow the scientist Leibowitz, and the story like jumps through like decades, so you're really not following a single character, you're just sort of following this sect and their attempts to get their guy to attain to sainthood. I know that this is very deep. It's very highly rated on Goodreads. I think it has like an average of 4 stars or over 4 stars, like 4.2, yeah. I didn't get it. I was so distracted. I listened to this a lot at work. Not a good thing to do. Part of me does want to try the second book and see if I can like get into it, pick it up. I was too brain dead to process what I was reading, but I did read it. So because I wasn't following along, 3 stars. Don't take that as like this is a good book or bad book or anything. Just, I can't even tell you if I recommend it or not, so don't listen to me. I don't know why I'm including it then, but yeah, I read it. Okay. Daisy Jones and the Six. I gave it 5 stars. This is my second book by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The first one I read was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Didn't really love that. I had a lot of issues with that book while reading it. It was still very well written and everything, but there were just some big problems I had with that book. I think the difference is that it tries to not be problematic, but I found it very problematic. Whereas Daisy Jones and the Six is like, it knows, it's putting it out there. Hey, these are messed up people who do awful things. And I loved it. This is one of the few books on Goodreads that I wrote a review for. I'm gonna try to, yeah. I don't like how that's formatted, but I'm just gonna read it. So I think this book had both an easier time and a harder time getting a 5-star rating. It's interview style, so it doesn't have to have beautiful lyrical writing and a cohesive plot, but it also has to maintain your interest without those things and make you invested through tiny snippets of commentary about an era that most readers were not even born yet. This impressively strikes this balance. I listened to the audiobook, which I do highly recommend if you're going to read this. Each person was voiced by a different actor, and it made it so easy to follow and feel differently about each character. They all did fantastic jobs. These narrators were really great. This is the story of a rock band in the mid-70s making music and doing copious amounts of drugs. That plot did not actually sound interesting to me at all, but I kept hearing how fantastic the book was, so I decided I'll try it. When I did finally decide to try it, it was because I've sort of kind of come around to being able to DNF books more easily, and I was like, okay, we'll see how it goes. This one just hit for me. The struggles with addiction, self-worth, loving someone who can't stay clean, finding out if your dream is really what you want in life, all of it. It just hit. I felt that the characters were very well developed. Each person felt completely real and believable and likable in their own ways. For the most part. There's obviously some people that are just not likable people in the book. And even the likable ones were mostly, or at least partially, likable. Like, you were never like in love with a character necessarily because their flaws were just on display. I read Evelyn Hugo last year, and I thought that the twist in this book was kind of funny because this author has some weird thing about needing to surprise the reader with who the biographer turns out to be. And so like the twist is just like, is every book of hers the same twist, that the person writing the book is somebody you would never think is the person writing the book? I don't know. I just thought that was funny. I really liked this book way better than Evelyn Hugo. I think the topics and the characters made more sense for what the author was trying to actually write about. Her use of race in Evelyn Hugo never really felt quite right to me. It didn't sit well. And I wasn't sure that I was gonna like anything by this author because of that book. So that's also kind of why I avoided it. In the end, I'm glad I gave it a try. It impacted me far more than I expected, and I appreciated the way that addiction was handled. It was maybe not the best representation exactly, but it did show it for what it is. Ugly, hurtful, destructive, alluring, enthralling, freeing, imprisoning, and above all, a disease, not a moral judgment. So that's my Goodreads review. I don't know what else to say. And I'm gonna keep apparently doing, am I doing the breaststroke? What am I doing here? Did I read it? The next book, oh my God, I'm so tired. The next book I read was The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym by Edgar Allan Poe. I have read this before. I almost feel like I remembered reading a different book. I love books about seafaring, but not modern seafaring, like old school, like the giant wooden ship with the sails before they had engines. I don't know why. It's also not a genre I read a lot of, but I tend to love those kinds of stories. Captain Blood, things like that. I still gave it a 4-star, but I just remember it being better. I feel like on this read through, it was maybe more of a 3-star. But originally when I read it, I remember really loving it. So I'm not sure where my disconnect is. I think it's Edgar Allan Poe's only novel, and it's the story of these two young idiots who decide to get drunk and then go for like a midnight sail in a tiny boat with a storm coming in, and then they have to be rescued. And then they stow away on a big ship. After they make it home safely, they're like, hey, let's do that again, but bigger. And then things go terribly wrong. That's, and it just gets wilder from there. But it was good. I'm not going to say I'm going to recommend it, because I just think a lot of people, if they're going to go for Edgar Allan Poe, that's probably not what they're looking for. But it was fine. I finally finished The Dark Forest by Cixin Liu. This is book 2 in the 3-Body Problem trilogy. It's not actually called that. It's called Remembrance of Earth's Past, I think. I don't know. But the 3-Body Problem is book 1. The Dark Forest is book 2. And I think Death's End is book 3. I got most of the way through this, and then my hold expired at Libby, so I had to wait like a whole other month before I could finally finish it. I finished it, loved it, 4 stars. I don't know how to describe this book. If you like sci-fi set on Earth that is fairly realistic, and it's not like hard sci-fi, like you don't have to like learn all these crazy scientific theories and stuff to understand it. There's an alien race that is headed towards Earth to basically take over, and humanity knows this, and they have to live through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years knowing that this fleet is on the way. So that's kind of where it is. I thought it was great. Very suspenseful. It's a slow burn of a series though, so if you're looking for like jam-packed, like 80% of the book, very slow, and then the last 20, it just hits you. So if that's not your thing, maybe avoid it, maybe find something else. But if that is your thing, it's great, go for it. And then the last book that I read in August. The last book that I read in August was Allegedly by Tiffany Jackson. Okay. I knew when I picked this book up, I was not ready to read it. I was not in the mental headspace that I needed to be to handle this book, and I read it anyway. 4 stars. Fantastic. Oh, it was done so well. It was so good. But man, I had a rough couple of days when I finished it. I think I read this in like 24 or 48 hours on audiobook. I had a rough couple of days afterward. I'm just gonna read my Goodreads because I'll just ramble otherwise. I knew I was not in the right mental state to read this book, but I did it anyway. This is dark. Not like horror, where you're seeing blood and gore, but psychologically dark. What people are capable of what people are capable of, how the most defenseless are abused and abandoned, and how you can never truly know anyone. I think I'm gonna be messed up for a little bit now, to be perfectly honest. And I was. But this book was good. It was so well written. Each character felt totally real, frustratingly so. The narrator struggled to speak up for herself and answer even simple, basic questions and make decisions in her own best interest was infuriating, but so understandable. A little girl at 9 years old accused of a horrific crime where her mother told her to take the fall because they'll go easier on a little girl. A girl who had to be the parent starting at 6 years old. A girl who had to keep her own mother alive at times. A girl who had to fight for her life when her mother hooked up with violent men. And the other girls in her group home, they did awful things to each other. But you could see how badly they had been treated, how no one cared about them, no one tried to help them, and they were monsters of somebody else's making. And can we just talk about Miss Bonnie Turpin as the audiobook reader? Oh my gosh, artist appreciation here, phenomenal. Phenomenal job narrating this. I would absolutely recommend this book, but only if you're ready to read it when you can handle the way that it will mess with your head. So yeah, that's it. 6 books. 6 books in August. 4-star, 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 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 4-star. All of them but Canticle for Leibowitz were at least a 4-star. Let's put it that way. That's it. That's all I got. I'm tired. I'm heading into surgery in 2 days. I don't know. I think this will go up before my surgical vlog. So yeah, anyway, I'm wrung out. I'm exhausted. Surgery's in 2 days. I will be, I think, out of commission like pretty solidly for maybe 2 or 3 days, and then I'll kind of start coming around. It is outpatient. I'll be recovering at home, so if you want some details on that, check out my most recent video, probably right after this one, I'm thinking. But if it's not the one right after, it'll be the one after that. I don't know, click on my channel if you want to see. I'm sure you'll find it. It'll have like surgical vlog or something that's pretty self-explanatory. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments below, what did you read in August and what are you checking out for September? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Please take care of each other. And I will see you next time. Bye.